Unwillingness to fight for the country strikes a chord with many people, sparking a wave of anti-communism in China. Local Chinese debt crisis sparks domino effect, with Yunnan County's debt ratio reaching 991.01%. Foreign investors accelerate withdrawal from China, $3.1 billion pulled out of the stock market in 5 days. Battle for the Heartland, how U.S. farmland is quietly falling into Chinese hands. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Unwillingness to fight for the country strikes a chord with many people, sparking a wave of anti-communism in China. According to the Vision Times, a text image with the words "I am not willing to fight for my country" has been recently circulating on the internet in China. This short piece, which is less than 100 words long, states, "If there is a war, I won't go, and I won't let my children go either. I come from the bottom of society, and during peacetime, nobody remembers us. They only think of us when there is trouble. When it comes to saying that everyone has a responsibility to help the country when it is in need, nobody treats us the same way as those who enjoy the benefits of the country. Whoever wants to go can go, but I won't go, and I won't let my children go either." These few sentences have struck a chord with countless people, leaving them pondering. A netizen replied that they do not want to fight for their country because 1. I am afraid to even kill a chicken, let alone a person. I might wet my pants on the battlefield. 2. I have a car loan, a mortgage, and parents, spouse, and children to support. I have too much responsibility and pressure. 3. I am uneducated and would just be a cannon fodder on the battlefield. My death would be meaningless. 4. I have lived for decades without enjoying any benefits from the country or its welfare system. I think this issue should be linked to interests and responsibilities. Of course, some people say that when the country is in trouble, every man has a duty to fight. I just want to say that I am an ordinary person. I am afraid of death and I just want to live a peaceful life." Many netizens have also suggested that experts should go first because they have more solutions, or before anyone is forced into a difficult situation, Chinese officials should come forward to defend the country, right? The words of netizens are harsh, hurtful, and full of grievances. So why do so many people in China have such great grievances? There are many reasons for this phenomenon, which stem from long-standing issues that the CCP has failed to address. For example, first, agricultural management, urban management, even traffic police, and so-called experts act recklessly and have a huge negative impact. Agricultural management has offended at least 60% of the Chinese people, and even more. After all, with a total population of 1.4 billion in China, the proportion of farmers is 41%, and nearly 500 million people live in rural areas, producing more than 600 million tons of grain every year. Second, there is a gap between the rich and the poor. The original plan was for the rich to lead and uplift the poor, but after so many years, they have not done so, and have instead become evil capitalists. What's worse, even the so-called mainstream media of the CCP turn a blind eye to this and often draw big pictures and spread poison, which is repulsive. Third, some wealthy people transfer their assets abroad, abandoning their original intentions and only thinking about their own interests, without wanting to contribute to society. This makes many people hate them to the bone. Fourth, abuse of public power. In the more than 70 years since the CCP came to power in 1949, Chinese society has undergone too many changes. Government officials use their power to seek benefits for their cronies, resulting in the exclusion and suppression of talent. Another issue that needs more reflection is, do we have enough confidence and self-assurance to fight for our country? The phrase "fight for the country" is a sentiment shared by every Chinese person, and it is also the correct choice for every Chinese person. However, the recent emergence of comments saying "unwilling to fight for the country" has been unfairly labeled as lower-class peasants. When problems arise, should the authorities investigate the root cause and consider where the grievances come from, rather than simply address the person who raised the issue? If the fundamental problem is not resolved, then all talk is just empty words. local Chinese debt crisis sparks domino effect, with Yunnan County's debt ratio reaching 991.01%. Following the Guizhou authorities' public admission of insurmountable debt, several counties in Yunnan have also spoken out about their financial distress, signaling a domino effect of the local Chinese debt crisis. According to a recent report by Chinese media Caixin, Yongping County in Yunnan had a debt ratio of 991.01% and a self-sufficiency ratio of only 15.66% in 2021. Furthermore, according to Yunnan Province's 2022 local financial budget, Yongping County's local government debt balance was 3.44 billion yuan, with a general debt balance of 620 million yuan and a special debt balance of 2.82 billion yuan. On April 24, Ma Zixing, the secretary of the Tengchong Municipal Party Committee in Yunnan, revealed the mounting pressures faced by current financial and taxation work, including the low quality of local income, a low rate of financial self-sufficiency, and its own financial resources can barely support salary payments. He also emphasized the difficulty of risk prevention and control due to the large debt scale, the deterioration in the government's overall financial strength, and the rising debt ratio year over year. Earlier, on April 11, the Development Research Center of the Guizhou provincial government posted an article on its website stating that the debt problem has become a significant and urgent issue for local governments in various regions. An article from Reuters on March 10 stated that China's local government debt has exceeded $9 trillion and continues to increase. Many local governments have requested that banks extend their debts to delay default time, seek compensation opportunities, or hope to lower loan interest rates. Data from the international credit rating agency Fitch Group shows that the amount of overseas bonds due this year by China's local government financing platforms has increased to $790 billion, reaching a new high since 2021. Research conducted by the Chinese credit rating agency Lianhe Ratings Global revealed that the outstanding overseas debt of China's local government financing vehicles, LGFV, has reached a staggering $84.2 billion, with about 84% of it due to mature between this year and 2025. Andrew Collier, the managing director of Orient Capital Research, said that the local government financing vehicles have become a black hole in China's financial system. I expect many of them to fail or to be quietly recapitalized by banks, leaving some rural banks and bondholders facing default risks. In an article written by Wu Jiexing, founder of the Trend Forum and former internet and investment executive, he pointed out that China's local debt problem can be traced back to the implementation of the value-added tax in 1994, long before the 2008 financial crisis. After the global financial crisis broke out in 2008, the Chinese government implemented an expansionary fiscal and loose monetary policy, and in 2010, it launched a stimulus plan of up to 4 trillion renminbi, aiming to maintain an 8% economic growth rate. However, the central government's allocation of funds was insufficient, and the 4 trillion renminbi stimulus plan was only funded by 30% by the central government, with the remaining 70% being raised by local governments. In order to meet the pressure of achievements without sufficient tax revenue, local officials have resorted to informal channels to finance their projects. The local debt problem has since grown rapidly, like a snowball. In addition, land development revenue is the main source of repayment for local government debt, but due to the bubble in the real estate market, local governments that rely excessively on land revenue are finding it more difficult to resolve their debt problems. The COVID-19 pandemic has also led to a rapid contraction of the consumer market economy, which has further reduced local government tax revenue. The article pointed out that China's local debt problem has already become a chronic disease, and now that the private economy is struggling and the central government is going against the trend of decentralization, loose policies and inflationary pressures will reappear like a nightmare. Various signs indicate that China's local debt problem continues to expand uncontrollably, and it remains a time bomb powerful enough to subvert the Communist Party's regime. Foreign investors accelerate withdrawal from China, $3.1 billion pulled out of the stock market in 5 days. Foreign businesses are leaving China at a rapid rate due to the CCP's increasingly strict censorship system. According to analysis by research company Data, in the past 5 trading days, global investors have withdrawn as much as $3.17 billion from China's stock market through the Shanghai and Shenzhen Hong Kong Stock Connect, marking the longest round of capital withdrawal since November last year. According to NTD-TV, ever since Li Chang became premier of the State Council of the Chinese Communist Party, he has made efforts to win over foreign businesses and allay their concerns about the CCP, stating that China's open door will only become wider. However, the actual actions of the senior leaders of the CCP have not reflected this statement. According to a report by the Wall Street Journal on the 28th, just a few months after sending a message of open doors to global investors, the Chinese government began its crackdown on foreign businesses and carried out raids and arrests. In recent weeks, Chinese authorities have raided the Beijing office of American intelligence firm Mintz Group and detained 5 people, arrested employees of Japanese pharmaceutical company Astellas Pharma who were sent to Beijing, and conducted searches at the Shanghai office of American consulting firm Bain & Company. In addition, the Chinese government has recently revised its anti-spying law, expanding its scope to counter what it perceives as foreign threats. The new provisions include allowing authorities to inspect the luggage and electronic devices of suspected spies, significantly increasing the risks for foreign businesses in China and prompting foreign companies to accelerate their exit from China. People familiar with the political situation in China told the Wall Street Journal that the Chinese government has revised its anti-spying law, highlighting the increasing belief among Chinese leaders that although foreign investment is crucial to the Chinese economy, it cannot be fully trusted. President Xi Jinping's aggressive policies towards foreign companies may scare off foreign investment and foreign enterprises. On April 3, American economist Milton Ezrati wrote in Forbes that the Chinese leadership has been eager to expand its power in recent years. Its increasingly hardline policies and frequent use of bullying or retaliatory actions have made China's economy less attractive. Battle for the Heartland: How U.S. farmland is quietly falling into Chinese hands. Andrew Thornbrook, a national security correspondent for the Epoch Times who covers China-related issues, has written an article titled Battle for the Heartland: How U.S. farmland is quietly falling into Chinese hands. The article highlights the alarming trend of Chinese-owned entities, some of which are linked to the CCP, purchasing land in the United States at an alarming rate for more than a decade. According to him, some of the land the Chinese-owned entities gobble up is for farming, other acreage is allotted for energy use, and still more parcels are forebodingly adjacent to sensitive U.S. military sites. In 2010, the U.S. Department of Agriculture estimates that Chinese holdings of U.S. agricultural lands reached more than 352,000 acres in 2020, up more than 5,300% from the less than 14,000 acres owned. To stem the growing incursion, state governments from across the nation are working desperately to craft legislation that would end the trend once and for all. Too often, however, those efforts are met with stolid resistance from entrenched business interests and, as was the case in South Dakota, are ultimately abandoned to placate private interests. Adam Savitt leads the China Policy Division at the America First Policy Institute, AFPI, a conservative think tank whose mission is to promote policies that prioritize the rights and well-being of American citizens over other considerations. He believes that the continued acceptance of CCP-backed acquisitions of U.S. land are an affront to American laws and norms, as well as a violation of equitable international practice. Savitt argues that allowing the Chinese regime to invest in U.S. land and resources, while U.S. companies are not permitted to do the same in China, goes against the principle of reciprocity that underpins much of international trust. In an interview with the Epoch Times, Savitt stated, "If we don't have access to a resource, opportunity, or institution in the CCP, they should not have access to that in our country." To that end, Savitt, the author of the latest issue brief for the Institute, has been tracking state responses to the increasing threat posed by CCP land grabs in the United States. Many states are now attempting to prevent the CCP or other similarly aggressive entities from purchasing land in the U.S. This effort is largely in response to the alleged national security risk associated with CCP-linked companies acquiring land near U.S. military bases, as has previously occurred in North Dakota, as well as their attempts to buy large portions of land and energy infrastructure, as was seen in Texas. Savitt has emphasized the importance of state legislation in curbing Chinese investment in areas that lack meaningful legal protections. To illustrate the seriousness of the issue, Savitt compares the land acquisition near military bases to a permanent version of a spy balloon, allowing the CCP to station whatever they want wherever they want. In response to the struggles of neighboring states, South Dakota attempted to prevent similar incursions by drafting a law that would have given the governor oversight over foreign investments in state land. Despite initial support from state lawmakers, the bill was ultimately defeated after major agricultural associations and unions lobbied against it. These groups were concerned that the bill would give too much power to the executive branch and could foster racial animosity toward Chinese Americans and immigrants. However, South Dakota is not alone. The AFPI report highlights legal struggles underway in 23 states from Arizona to Virginia, totaling 53 separate bills. Savitt believes there's no foolproof way to prevent the CCP regime from getting its hands on American lands, but commends the varied efforts of the states to address the issue in their own ways. However, there is a significant problem. The United States lacks a clear understanding of who is purchasing land, especially during a time when record numbers of Chinese are leaving the country due to harsh repression by the CCP. Policy technologist Lars Skonander, from the Lincoln Network think tank, has spent years tracking malign foreign investment in the United States. This refers to investments made by hostile nations in the U.S. with the goal of exploiting or undermining the nation's interests. Unfortunately, the necessary data to track such investments is private but not classified, making it frustrating to obtain. Simply put, the federal government is not collecting in-depth data about foreign land purchases in the country. At present, the only federal law that tracks such investments is the Agricultural Foreign Investment Disclosure Act, which requires foreign entities to report transactions of farmland to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA. However, Skonander cautions that the USDA is only authorized to acquire data on land purchases up to 3 orders of ownership, meaning that a foreign entity could ultimately own a series of U.S. shell corporations without the agency's knowledge. Additionally, there are long lag times between an investment being made and it being recorded, with data only updated at the end of the year. As a result, even members of Congress will be working with data that is at least a year old. Although the government has recognized the need for more granular data on foreign investments in the past, such as with the U.S. Energy Information Administration requiring details on foreign investments in U.S. energy infrastructure, this program was discontinued following budget sequestration in 2011. Although the agency still has the form and personnel to set it up, a spokesperson for the Energy Information Administration told the Epoch Times that the agency has no plans to reinstate the program. The Epoch Times has also reached out to the USDA for comment. Don't forget to comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.